My wife's lover said she needed satisfaction. So I satisfied my fist, ruined his life, took his wife and watched them burn. So, me 35, male and my wife 33, female Sarif, were married for 6 years. We met in college, dated for a couple of years, then got hitched in a small ceremony. No kids, we were focused on careers. I was grinding 60+ hours weekly at my engineering firm, while she climbed the ladder at some marketing agency. Our life looked good, decent apartment in the nicer part of town, 2 cars, annual vacation to somewhere with beaches. The American dream, right? I busted my ass designing commercial structures all day, came home tired, and weekends were for friends or Netflix. Nothing exciting. It worked. Or so I thought. My typical day: up at 5:30, gym by 6, office by 8, home around 8 p.m. If I was lucky, rinse and repeat. I was putting in the work now so we could enjoy life later, building that foundation. Sarif seemed on the same page at first, ambitious, focused, supportive. She'd meal prep on Sundays, leave cute notes in my lunch. All that couple stuff you see on Instagram. Then, about a year ago, things shifted, subtle at first. The meal prep stopped because she was too busy. The cute notes disappeared. She started having more client dinners and team happy hours. Whatever, I thought. She's networking, building her career. That's what we both wanted. Our friend circle was mostly other couples, college friends, work colleagues, neighbors. Among them were Julian, 34, male, and his wife, 33, female. Diana met them at some charity thing Sarif dragged me to. Julian was this tall, perpetually tanned sales director type, who couldn't shut up about his latest deal or vacation to Bali or whatever. One of those guys who wears loafers without socks and has 2 white teeth. Diana was his wife, and supposedly Sarif's best friend since high school. Quiet, smart, always watching, pretty in that understated way. Dinner at our place twice a month became tradition. Julian always brought some overpriced wine he wouldn't stop talking about. It's a little Bordeaux I discovered through a client. You probably haven't heard of the Vineyard. Yeah, because normal people don't spend $200 on fermented grape juice, jerk. Diana usually brought homemade desserts and sat quietly, watching everyone. These dinners got weird over time. Julian made subtle digs at my career while looking at my wife across the table. "Still at the same company, huh?" he'd say, or go on about his promotions and bonuses. After these dinners, Sarif would gush about how driven and successful Julian was. "He just gets how the game is played," she'd say. I'd remind her that my steady job was paying our mortgage, while Julian's sales job probably had him one bad quarter away from getting axed. She didn't like that much. Sarif kept pushing for more hangouts with just the 4 of us, turning down other invites. "I just feel more comfortable with Julian and Diana," she'd claim. Sure you do. At one point, we were seeing them weekly. Dinners, drinks, even weekend trips to Julian's family cabin, which was actually just a luxury vacation home his parents let him use. I went along with it because it made Sarif happy, and keeping her happy seemed important. The changes in Sarif piled up: new wardrobe. Suddenly her perfectly good clothes weren't on brand enough for her career. New haircut. From long to this short professional style that all the senior women at the agency had. New gym membership at some fancy place. Then the late nights started, not just occasionally, but 3-4 times a week. Big client pitch tomorrow, or team needs to finalize the campaign tonight. Always some excuse. She'd come home smelling like wine and that cologne they spray you with at department stores. Her texts became guarded, always angling the phone away from me. One night, I rolled over at 2 a.m., and she wasn't in bed. Found her in the living room, furiously texting someone. When I asked who, she jumped like I'd caught her robbing a bank. "God, you scared me. Just work stuff." Work stuff at 2 a.m., with a password suddenly added to her phone the next day. I was too busy building our future to really investigate, and maybe too trusting to notice. Our conversations became surface level. "How was your day?" "Fine, busy." She stopped asking about my projects or my friends. Stopped sharing stories about her co-workers, except for her mentor who was helping her navigate office politics. 3 guesses who that mentor was. Those twice-monthly dinners with Julian and Diana evolved too. Julian started showing up in designer clothes. Diana got quieter, if that was even possible, watching Julian and Sarif with this unreadable expression. I caught them a few times, lingering touches, inside jokes. But I brushed it off. We'd been married for 6 years. We had history, plans, a joint checking account for Christ's sake. She wouldn't throw that away for some douchebag in Gucci loafers, would she? I was wrong, obviously, but I didn't know how wrong until Diana decided to blow up all our lives on a random Tuesday afternoon. It started like any other day. I was deep in some structural calculations for a new high-rise when my phone buzzed. It was Diana. Weird. Need to talk, not over phone. Riverside Cafe at 1 p.m. Important. We weren't exactly buddies, so this was out of nowhere. Diana and I barely talked one-on-one, always with Sarif and Julian around, but something about the text seemed urgent. I stared at my screen for a minute, then replied with a simple okay. I told my boss I had a personal emergency and headed out. Dave's cool like that. Doesn't ask questions when you've put in enough 12-hour days to earn some leeway. Headed to the cafe. Found Diana hidden in the back corner, giant sunglasses covering half her face, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She didn't even look up when I sat down. "Thanks for coming," she said, voice shaky. "What's going on? Everything okay?" I asked. She cut straight to it. Sarif and Julian have been sleeping together for 4 months, just like that, no cushioning the blow. I remember feeling weirdly calm, like my brain needed to buffer before processing that information. She slid a manila folder across the table, finally taking off those sunglasses. Her eyes were red and swollen. The folder was meticulously organized. Hotel receipts, screenshots of texts, photos of them going into hotels together, timestamps included. Times and dates that perfectly matched Sarif's late meetings and work trips. One photo showed them kissing in his car in some parking garage. Another showed them entering the Marriott downtown. The texts were worse. Explicit stuff I can't unsee, talking about what they'd done and would do next time, plans for vacations they'd take when they were finally free, complaints about their spouses, me being boring and always working, Diana being clingy and not ambitious enough. "How did you get all this?" I asked, my hands starting to shake as the reality sank in. "That's a long story." "It doesn't matter," Diana said. "I've suspected since Christmas when I found a hotel keycard in his jacket. He claimed it was from a business trip, but the hotel was downtown, 10 minutes from our house." She took a deep breath. "But that's not all. Julian's been embezzling from his company to pay for their activities." She pulled out another set of papers, expense reports, credit card statements, company financial records. Julian had been coding their hotel stays as client meetings, their dinners as business development, even jewelry for Sarif as client appreciation gifts. Tens of thousands of dollars over the past few months. "He's the finance director. Nobody questions his expenses," Diana explained. "But I do our taxes, and the numbers weren't adding up. He's been keeping 2 sets of records." I stared at the evidence, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. 6 years of marriage, the house we were saving for, the kids we'd planned to have once we were more established, all burned to the ground because my wife couldn't keep her legs closed around her best friend's husband. "Why are you showing me this?" I finally asked, looking up from the damning evidence. Diana's expression hardened. "Because you deserve to know. And because I'm done being made a fool of. They've been laughing at us, Gavin. Having their fun while we worked and supported them." I remembered all those nights, the inside jokes, the lingering glances, how Julian would offer to help Sarif with dishes, while I was stuck talking to Diana. They weren't even subtle, just counting on us being too trusting or too stupid to notice. "There's more," Diana continued, lowering her voice. "They've been planning to leave us. Julian's been moving money around, setting up accounts I can't access. They were going to blindside us both, probably after the company's fiscal year ends when Julian gets his bonus." The anger finally hit me, a wave of rage that made my vision blur. "That's why Sarif's been pushing me to put more into our joint account. She's been setting me up." Diana nodded. "Julian asked me last week to add her as an authorized user on our American Express. Said it was for office expenses. I pretended to agree but never did it. We sat in silence for a minute, 2 people whose lives were imploding in the same exact way at the same exact time, caused by the same 2 people. It was almost funny in a cosmic joke kind of way. "What are you going to do?" I asked her. "I've already called a lawyer, filing for divorce tomorrow and anonymously sending evidence of the embezzlement to his company's board." Her voice was steady now, determined. He thinks I'm just the trophy wife who doesn't understand finances. He's about to learn how wrong he is." I nodded, a plan already forming in my mind. "I appreciate you doing this. Thanks a lot, Diana." I took the folder, and we parted ways with an awkward half-hug that somehow felt appropriate for two people bonded by mutual betrayal. I didn't go back to work, called in sick for the rest of the day, drove straight to my bank instead, mind racing with everything I needed to do. No dramatic confrontation yet, just calculated action. I had only one thought: they messed with the wrong engineer. First stop, the bank. I opened a new account in my name only, and transferred my direct deposit to it, then moved most of our savings, the money I'd been putting in for the house down payment, into that new account. Left enough in the joint account to avoid immediate suspicion. Sarif rarely checked our finances anyway, that was my department. Her mistake. Next, I called all our credit card companies and removed her as an authorized user where possible. For joint cards, I reduced credit limits and requested transaction alerts. Called our investment firm and froze our brokerage account. 6 years of savings weren't going to finance her new life with douchebag Julian. Last financial step: withdrew $2,000 in cash, emergency money in case things got messy. Never underestimate what a desperate cheater might do when cornered. By 3 p.m., I had secured our finances. Next task: find a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I wanted a shark. I didn't want reconciliation or couples therapy. I wanted out with minimal damage to my finances and sanity. I called Bobby, my buddy from college who went through a nasty divorce last year. He didn't ask questions, just gave me his lawyer's number and said, "Call her now. Tell her I referred you, and it's an emergency. Let's call her Jessica." She answered on the second ring. No receptionist, no nonsense. I gave her the basics: 6-year marriage, no kids, cheating wife, financial concerns. She got me in that same afternoon. She wasn't what I expected. Mid-40s, direct. She laid it out straight. In our state, adultery doesn't mean much unless it involves wasting marital assets, which, thanks to Diana's evidence, we could prove it did. Hotel rooms, gifts, dinners. All marital assets squandered on the affair. Jessica took copies of everything from Diana's folder and worked up a strategy. She warned me to act normal for a few days while she prepared the paperwork. I walked out of her office with a $5,000 retainer paid from my new private account and a plan. She'd have divorce papers ready in 48 hours, and we'd arrange for Sarif to be served at work for maximum impact. Cold? Maybe. But so was screwing your best friend's husband for 4 months. I left Jessica's office at 6 p.m. and realized I couldn't go home, couldn't look at Sarif without wanting to burn her world down. So I texted her that I was working late and headed to Bobby's place. Bobby lives in a 2-bedroom bachelor pad downtown. When I showed up with a duffel bag, he just nodded, handed me a soda, and sat me down. That's real friendship, no questions, just support when you're falling apart. That night was rough. Bobby went out to give me space, and I sat on his balcony, just thinking, scrolling through pictures on my phone. Sarif and me in Thailand last year, at my parents' anniversary, building that IKEA bookshelf that nearly ended our marriage before the affair did. 6 years of memories, all tainted now. All wasted. For who? For some soft dude with a fancy haircut? My phone was blowing up with texts from Sarif, working late again. "There's leftover pasta. Are you coming home soon? Want to watch that show? Everything okay? You're being quieter than usual?" Each message made me angrier, the casual normalcy of it all while she was living a double life. I didn't respond, let her wonder. Instead, I texted my boss that I needed a few personal days. Then I turned off my phone and opened the soda. Not my proudest moment, but sometimes you need to hit pause on life. I spent the next day organizing, made lists of shared property, accounts, insurance policies, changed passwords on my email, social media, cloud storage, backed up text messages, photos, important documents. Methodical. When I turned my phone back on that evening, there were 28 missed calls and texts from Sarif, escalating from casual to concerned to pissed off. I sent one reply: "Busy with work, staying at Bobby's to focus on project. Back in a few days." Her response was immediate. "What project? Why didn't you tell me? This isn't like you." The irony of her saying what was like me after proving she never really knew me at all. I didn't respond. By day 3, the divorce papers were ready. Jessica had moved at lightning speed. preparing a filing that laid out Sarif's infidelity in clinical, humiliating detail, dates, locations, expenses, all the evidence Diana had provided. It exposed the affair for what it was, a costly betrayal. Jessica arranged for a process server to deliver the papers to Sarif's office at 2 p.m. Perfect timing, right after lunch when the whole office would be there to witness it. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? You bet your ass. I stationed myself in a coffee shop across from her building, nursing an Americano while watching the entrance. At 1:58 p.m., I saw the process server enter, professional-looking woman with a manila envelope. At 2:24 p.m., my phone exploded with calls from Sarif. It was done. I declined the calls and waited, watching. At 2:40 p.m., Sarif burst out of the building, mascara streaking down her face, phone pressed to her ear, probably calling Julian. I just watched the whole show with a smirk on my face, a strange sense of calm washing over me. The worst was over. That night she tracked me down at Bobby's place, had no idea how she found me. Maybe she called around to my friends. Bobby had gone out again, giving me space. The pounding on the door started around 8 p.m. I knew it was her before I checked the peephole. She was a mess, hair wild, makeup smeared, eyes red and puffy. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. No way was she coming inside. How could you do this to me? She shrieked, trying to push past me. I didn't budge. Serving me at work, everyone saw. You humiliated me, she continued, voice cracking. I stayed calm, which only made her angrier. Told her to communicate through my lawyer from now on. She switched tactics, suddenly crying, claiming it was all a mistake. Julian meant nothing, we could fix this. I laughed in her face, told her I had all the texts where they planned their future together, the hotel receipts, the photos, everything. That's when she got scary calm, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. This isn't over. You have no idea what you're doing. I closed the door in her face, her final words hanging in the air. Through the door I heard her scream before her footsteps retreated down the hallway. That night I slept like a baby. My life was burning down around me. Well, not exactly my life, but the garbage part of it. Let it burn. Yes, in Adele's voice. 3 days after serving Sarif the papers, Julian finally made his move. Bro decided to flex his muscles. I was in the parking lot at work, heading to my car after a surprisingly productive day. I spotted him before he saw me, leaning against my car, trying to look casual in his expensive suit, checking his watch like he had somewhere important to be. Just the sight of him made my blood boil. This was the guy who'd been sleeping with my wife, spending my money by proxy, laughing about me behind my back. I considered just turning around and going back inside to avoid giving him some tooth work and legally getting myself into trouble, but screw that. This was my car in my workplace parking lot. I wasn't about to be intimidated. As I approached, he straightened up, flashing that fake sales smile that probably closed a lot of deals and opened a lot of legs. Up close, he looked worse than usual, tie slightly crooked, dark circles under his eyes. Apparently, Diana leaving him was taking a toll. Good. We need to talk about this situation, he said, attempting to sound reasonable. It's gotten out of hand. I set my laptop bag on the hood of my car, just staring at him, letting the silence get uncomfortable. A trick I learned in negotiations. The first person to speak usually loses. He broke first, of course. Look, man. I know you're upset, but these things happen. Marriages drift apart. People find connections elsewhere. And Sarif needed someone to satisfy her. Really? These things happen was his explanation for screwing my wife, like it was a weather event? Hurricane Julian makes landfall in my bedroom, news at 11. And satisfy her? The second those smug words dripped from his mouth, I decided to satisfy my fist by rearranging his face. One clean, therapeutic punch, and he crumpled next to my car, holding his face. Sarif's a mess, he whined, dropping his voice conspiratorially, as if we were partners in crime. Did you really have to humiliate her at work? Oh, my bad. Next time my wife cheats, I'll be sure to throw her a freaking parade instead. After a pause and some nervous looks by him, he finally spoke. Look, man, the divorce papers, he said. Getting to the point, some of those allegations are excessive, the financial stuff especially. There it was. He wasn't here about Sarif at all. He was worried about the evidence of embezzlement detailed in the filing. Save it. I've seen the receipts, the dates, the text messages. Tell me, does your company know you're using their money to fund your affair? He stood up and stepped closer. You need to be very careful about making accusations. That's a dangerous road. I didn't back up an inch. Make a move. Please, give me a reason. He faltered, taking a half step back. For all his bravado, Julian was a coward at heart. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice hardening. Sarif and I are both screwed, I finished for him. How's Diana doing, by the way? Heard she's going for the house. You've got a sweet wife. Oh, my bad. Ex-wife. That hit a nerve. Diana had apparently hired a shark of her own, and Julian was facing the financial equivalent of a wood chipper. His momentary confusion confirmed he didn't know Diana and I were in contact. Perfect. What did you just say? What the hell do you mean? Enjoy prison, Julian, I said, grabbing my laptop bag and unlocking my car. Prison? He laughed, but it sounded hollow. For what? Having an affair isn't a crime. Embezzlement is, I replied simply, getting into my car and driving away, leaving him standing in the parking lot, probably trying to calculate exactly how screwed he was. Very screwed, as it turned out. That night, Diana came over to Bobby's place with dinner and a USB drive containing everything she'd gathered on Julian's financial fraud. We spread it all out on Bobby's dining table. He was out on a date, thankfully. Hotel receipts, expense reports, company credit card statements, fake client meeting notes, the whole package. She was the perfect partner for this revenge operation. Cool, methodical, detail-oriented. She had an accounting degree and had worked in forensic accounting before marrying Julian. She knew exactly what to look for and how to present it in a way that would raise immediate red flags with auditors. He's been doing this for years, she explained, pointing to patterns in the statements, not just with Sarif. There were others before her, but he got sloppy this time, spending more, taking bigger risks. The affair had made him careless, booking 5-star hotels instead of his usual mid-range business accommodations, expensive dinners with multiple bottles of wine, even jewelry for Sarif listed as client gifts. Nearly $200,000 of company money over the past few years, with about $50,000 just in the months with Sarif. Why didn't you report him sooner? I asked, scrolling through a particularly damning spreadsheet she'd created. Diana gave me a tight smile. I only put it all together recently. And honestly, I wanted out first. Needed to protect myself before blowing the whistle. Smart woman. She'd already moved her personal assets, documented everything for her divorce, and set herself up to be insulated from the fallout. Now she was ready to burn it all down. We spent hours organizing the evidence, creating a report that even an intern in accounting could understand. Phone records showing calls to Sarif during supposed client meetings. GPS data from his company car showing trips to hotels, not client offices. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals that aligned with gifts Sarif had received. He always treated me like arm candy, Diana said as we packaged everything up. The pretty trophy wife who handled the social calendar and looked good at company parties. Never realized I understood financial fraud better than he did. By midnight, we had compiled everything into a single encrypted file. Diana had created an anonymous email account using a VPN. The plan was simple. Send the evidence to Julian's company board, finance department, external auditors, and the SEC. Then wait. Are you sure about this? I asked her as my finger hovered over the send button. Once it's done, there's no going back. Diana's face hardened. He stole from his company. That's not revenge. It's justice. She was right. This wasn't just about getting back at them for the affair anymore. Julian had committed actual crimes. We sent the email, then cracked open some drinks and waited. The response was faster than we expected. The next morning, Diana got a call from a friend who worked in Julian's building. The company's security team and 2 executives had shown up at Julian's office unannounced. His computer was confiscated, his access badges deactivated. He was escorted from the building, carrying a sad cardboard box of desk plants and family photos. By afternoon, there were rumors circulating about financial irregularities and an internal investigation. By evening, Julian was calling Diana non-stop, leaving increasingly panicked voicemails about misunderstandings and how they needed to talk. She played one for me, his voice high and tight with stress. Diana, please, it's not what it looks like. I can explain everything. Call me back. First blood drawn. But we were just getting started. It's amazing how fast a life can unravel when the right threads are pulled. Julian certainly did. Within 48 hours of our anonymous tip, his company had launched a full internal investigation. By the end of the week, they'd brought in forensic accountants and outside counsel. Serious stuff. They weren't just covering their asses, they were building a case. Meanwhile, my divorce proceedings moved at warp speed, thanks to rock-solid evidence of infidelity involving misused marital assets. Jessica demolished Sarif in the initial hearing, presenting the affair timeline with hotel receipts and texts, then hammering home the financial impact. Your Honor, Mr. Weber's wife wasn't just committing adultery, she was actively spending marital funds to do so. The defendant's lover, currently under investigation for embezzlement, was using company money to fund their relationship. The judge just nodded while taking notes. Sarif's baby-faced lawyer tried arguing the affair was irrelevant to dividing assets, but Jessica shut him down instantly. Her lover is under criminal investigation for embezzlement used to fund their affair, directly impacting financial discovery. That caught the judge's attention, who promptly ordered expedited financial discovery and a quick divorce timeline. Sarif sat there, looking shell-shocked, like this couldn't possibly be happening to her. Welcome to consequences, honey. Outside the courtroom, Sarif tried approaching me, eyes red and puffy. I just walked past her to Jessica's office for our debrief. The look of rejection on Sarif's face almost made the wasted 6 years of marriage worth it. Over the next few weeks, Julian's situation went from bad to catastrophic. Diana kept me updated through her sources at his company. The initial investigation had uncovered even more financial irregularities beyond what we'd sent them. Turns out, our anonymous tip was just the thread that unraveled a sweater of fraud going back years. One evening, at a diner far from our usual spots, didn't want to run into mutual friends, Diana showed me an email from her lawyer. The company's investigation had expanded to include all executives who had approved Julian's expenses. 3 VPs were now on administrative leave. The SEC had formally opened an investigation. He's totally screwed, she said, a small smile playing at her lips. His lawyer called mine today, trying to negotiate our divorce settlement. Suddenly he's willing to give me everything just to get it done before his assets potentially get frozen. Smart move on Diana's part. Getting her divorce finalized before criminal charges meant she could secure assets that might otherwise be tied up for years. Her lawyer was pushing for the house, both cars, all their liquid investments, and monthly support. Julian was so desperate to settle quickly that he was agreeing to all of it. Meanwhile, Sarif was spiraling. She'd been put on administrative leave from her job, pending an investigation into her knowledge of Julian's activities. Apparently, some of those client meetings she'd attended with Julian were now part of the fraud investigation. She was blowing up my phone with increasingly desperate messages. Please call me, I need to explain, this is all a misunderstanding. Julian told me those were legitimate business trips. They're investigating me at work, I could lose my job, please help me. I forwarded everything to Jessica without responding. Each message just strengthened our case that Sarif had been involved in Julian's schemes, even if only as an unwitting participant. The hammer finally dropped on Julian 3 weeks after our tip. He was arrested at his temporary apartment. Diana had kicked him out of their house the day she filed for divorce, on multiple charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and falsifying business records. His perfectly styled hair was a mess, designer suit replaced by a rumpled button-down. How the mighty fall. Sarif wasn't arrested, but she was formally interviewed by both company investigators and law enforcement. Jessica got a copy of her statement through Discovery. She claimed complete ignorance, saying she thought all those trips and dinners were legitimate business activities. Maybe she was lying, maybe she was just that naive. Either way, she was collateral damage in Julian's downfall. She was fired the next day. Loss of confidence was the official reason. Translation: we don't believe you didn't know, but we can't prove it, so we're just getting rid of you instead of risking more bad press. With her income gone and legal bills mounting, Sarif finally stopped fighting the divorce. Her lawyer reached out to Jessica, proposing a settlement that basically gave me everything I wanted. I kept the condo, my retirement accounts, investments, and most of our joint savings. She got her car, personal items, and enough cash to get a small apartment. It was more generous than she deserved, but I just wanted it over. The day we signed the final papers was surreal. 6 years of marriage ended with signatures on a stack of documents. Sarif looked like a ghost, thin, pale, wearing something off the rack. She kept trying to make eye contact, probably hoping for some last-minute forgiveness or at least acknowledgement. I gave her nothing. That night, Diana and I celebrated at an upscale restaurant downtown, far from anywhere we'd gone with our exes. We'd both finalized our divorces within days of each other, both walked away with our lives relatively intact while Julian and Sarif's burned to the ground. To justice, Diana said, raising her glass, and to whatever comes next. Over dinner, we talked about everything except our exes, her plans to restart her accounting career, my new project at work, a trip she was planning to the coast. It felt good to talk about the future instead of the past. At some point, I realized I was genuinely enjoying myself for the first time in months. When I dropped her off at her place, formerly her and Julian's, before she got it in the divorce, there was a moment of awkwardness at the door. We'd been allies in war, but now the war was over. What were we to each other now? Would you like to come in for coffee? She asked. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't sure if we were ready, if I was ready. Just coffee, she added with a small smile. We've both been through enough drama for one lifetime. I accepted. As we sat on her couch, talking into the early hours, something shifted. A couple of weeks later, we went on our first date, and I felt like maybe, just maybe, this whole disaster had led me somewhere better than where I'd started. Update: Hey Reddit, it's been 6 months since everything went down, and many of you asked for an update on the Julian Sarif dumpster fire. Holy crap, guys, you'd want to know what happened. Grab your popcorn. First, Julian. Remember the embezzling douchebag in designer loafers? He's currently rocking a lovely jumpsuit in minimum security prison. Took a plea deal, 5 years, hefty restitution payments, and a permanent ban from finance. His company did a full audit and found he'd stolen nearly $400,000 over 4 years. His sentencing made the local business journal. They used his old headshot from the company website next to his mugshot. The contrast is chef's kiss. From Tom Ford suit to wearing orange is quite the fashion journey. As for Sarif, total freefall. After getting fired, she couldn't land another marketing job. Turns out, being associated with a major embezzlement scandal isn't great for the resume. Last I heard, she's working retail at a mall in the suburbs. Her Instagram went from exotic vacations and champagne brunches to inspirational quotes and pictures of her parents' cat. Diana's thriving, by the way. Started her own forensic accounting firm, specializing in corporate fraud detection, already landed 3 major clients. Her company tagline: because your finance director might be funding his affair with your money, brutal and effective. We've been dating for about 4 months now. Took it slow at first. Trust issues for obvious reasons. But turns out, trauma bonding over your cheating spouses is a surprisingly effective relationship foundation. Who knew? The real entertainment started last week when Sarif texted me out of the blue. Hey Gavin, I've been thinking, can we meet for coffee? I'd like to talk, please. It's urgent. After laughing for a solid minute, Diana and I took a selfie together, making peace signs and looking obnoxiously happy. I sent it with, sorry, too busy enjoying life. Good luck with yours. Probably should have left it at that, but the show wasn't over. The next day, my doorbell rings around 8 p.m. I check the security camera. It's Sarif, looking like a discount version of her former self. Diana and I grab our coffees and settle in front of my laptop to watch the show through the security camera feed. Modern entertainment at its finest. Sarif rings again, then starts knocking, then pounding. Gavin, I know you're here. Open the freaking door now. Diana nearly spits out her coffee, laughing. I unmute the intercom. Sorry, can't come to the door right now. We're celebrating our 4-month anniversary. The look on Sarif's face, pure screen grab material. Then she spots the doorbell camera and completely loses it. You're with her? You think it's funny? With my best friend? Diana leans into the intercom. Former best friend, current girlfriend. Upgrade on both counts. That's when Sarif goes nuclear, calling Diana every name in the book. Backstabber, conniving bitch, home-wrecking slut. The irony apparently lost on her. Threatens to ruin us like we ruined her. Starts kicking the door. Should we call the cops, or just keep enjoying the show? Diana asks. Why not both? I reply, dialing non-emergency while Sarif continues her performance for the entire hallway. 15 minutes later, two extremely bored-looking cops show up. We watch through the camera as they try to calm Hurricane Sarif, who's now crying about how we conspired to destroy her life. "Ma'am, you need to leave private property when asked," says cop number 1. "But they ruined my life," she wails, mascara running. "Ma'am, relationship problems aren't a police matter," sighs cop number 2. When they finally escort her out, she's screaming the whole way. Every neighbor's door is cracked open, watching. The old lady from 4 Billions gives me a thumbs up next time I see her in the elevator. "That was better than a TV show," she says. The cherry on top, Sarif got a restraining order filed against her. She's legally required to stay 500 feet away from both of us now. Last week, I ran into a mutual friend who told me Sarif's been telling everyone Diana and I planned this all along. Apparently, we masterminded an elaborate scheme to make our spouses cheat with each other so we could end up together. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Julian and Sarif thought they were trading up when they started their affair. Now he's counting ceiling tiles in a cell, and she's folding sweaters at the mall, while the people they betrayed are building something real. Edit, for those asking, no, I won't share the security camera footage of Sarif's meltdown for research purposes.